Hello, banjo pickers and future banjo pickers. We are here doing the audio companion for my first book, New Techniques for Five-String Banjo, Volume 1, Beginner. And I'm coming to you from my little studio in our 20-foot Sonic trailer. There is some work going on right outside my trailer, some renovations to this RV park we're living in currently, so you may be privileged enough to hear some backhoe sounds, motorcycles revving, all those things that come along with living in a trailer park. But we will soldier through with all those extraneous sounds, hopefully. So let's get started. Turn in your books to page 10, Chapter 2, Reading Tablature and Counting Time. Up above, you have how to read tablature. There's some bullet text for you to read, and hopefully that gets you started with understanding the diagram that follows, which is a tab staff, a 5-line staff, which gives you the names and numbers of your banjo strings. And the first thing I will do is give you each string once in order on that tab staff. And the top line with the first 0 says high D or first, followed by B or second, and then the one in the middle, G or third. Next along the way we have low D or fourth, the thickest string. And finally high G or fifth, the short string. Before I go on, let me get you in tune to my banjo, which has been tuned to what is known as standard pitch. And I will once again give you all those strings in order, but this time I'll play each one 8 times, giving you the opportunity to adjust your string to match mine as close as you can. Here is the high D or first. The B or second 8 times. The G or third 8 times. The D or fourth or thickest string 8 times. And the high G or fifth short string 8 times. And now let's get a little further into the analysis of this tablature line that we're still looking at here on page 10. If you have read the text, hopefully it's well explained. But just to reiterate, you have zeros on each line from the top line ending up down at the bottom line. And those zeros represent open strings. That means the fretting hand, or the hand that pushes down on the frets, whether you're right or left-handed, that's your fretting hand, is not in use at this time. These strings are in their natural state without frets being pressed down. So the trick with tablature is that the top line zero that you see, the first one, high D or first, is actually the string that's furthest away from you as you look down at your banjo. So keep that in mind, because sometimes the tendency is to read these tab staves upside down, because some don't see the logic in that. And I can kind of see that, but I didn't invent this, so blame the folks that invented it a long time ago. So let me run down the names of the strings one more time. High D or first, B or second, G or third, D or fourth, and high G or fifth. Now, right now, as far as picking a string, choose whichever finger you like at this point of your picking hand. You can pick all downwards with your thumb. You can pick with your fingers picking up towards you, provided you put your finger picks on the right way. That should work out. Now let me give you the saying underneath the staff to help you memorize the letter names of your strings, which is important to know. It's good to have this knowledge. Draft, beer, goes, down, good. D, B, G, D, G. This is also what is known as G tuning on a banjo. There are other ways to tune a banjo, but for this entire book, you will be tuned in this tuning known as G tuning. Now, assuming you're tuned up, sometimes it's a good idea to just give a strum to all 5 strings. So I'm going to start my thumb pick at the 5th string and strum, in other words, brush that pick across all 5 strings from 5th to 1st. If you want to get real fancy, take one of your finger picks and strum upwards, 1st to 5th. Okay, moving along to page 11. What we have here is something to get you used to reading the tablature and seeing how measures are divided in tablature. And I'm going down to the tab staff again. And what we have there is a first measure with a total of 8 zeros in it. Then we have a bar line, followed by the next measure after that. So most of the time, after 8 of something, you will have a bar line to start a new measure of 8 of something. So I gave you one complete measure, that first measure, and I gave you a few notes of the hypothetical next measure to follow that. And each one of those zeros is a note within the spectrum of your open strings. And I gave you a few examples. But the idea is for you to be able to follow which string you are meant to pick from this tab staff. So I gave you the first one. It's third string note. The string right in the middle of your banjo. The next note is the next line higher, therefore second string. The next note along the way is the next line higher or the top line, and that is always your first string. Again, the string furthest away from you as you look down at the banjo. Then the fourth note is a fifth string note, and that is on the opposite side from where you just picked the bottom line of the staff, and that is your fifth string short string. Then we return to the opposite side again to the first string open, followed by next line down, second string open, next line down, third string open, and then back up to the top line, first string open. That measure has ended, so we draw the straight bar line, and the next measure begins with third string open, followed by first string open, back to third string open, etc. from there. And then at the end of that measure, a new bar line would get drawn, and on the measures go in a piece of music. Now let me play all those notes for you in more of a rhythmic sense. I will start by counting to 4, and then I will play at that tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just played every note in order on that tab staff on page 11. Moving along to the bottom of page 11, we have the top part of a banjo neck, and the important part I want you to zero in on this diagram is the frets. Our first fret is the area between the nut, which passes across the neck at the top between the neck and the head stock, and the first fret wire, which occurs just beyond the nut. And the fret is the area where you will use your fretting hand to push down on a particular fret on a given string when asked for. So that first fret also normally has a marker on it. And then I show you the third fret, which also has a marker on it. And of course, in between those two is the second fret. And then it takes you as far as the fifth fret, which is right next to your fifth string peg, that area there. So pretty much in this book, for the first part of it anyway, we'll be working with the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth frets on any given string when called for.